Okay, so this is a video essay on feminism and TERF, specifically TERF feminism, or trans exclusionary radical feminism, and why I believe it, one, misunderstands the goals of transgender activists, and two, misses the point of feminism. Okay, so if I'm looking off to the side a lot, it's because I have my notes over here, so TERF ideology, or again, trans exclusionary radical feminism, is an ideology that excludes transgender women from its feminist goals. And the two pillars of this sort of argument, like the reasons it does so, is because, according to them, transgender women are not real women, and trans women steal the attention away from real women. So I will attack both of these pillars from the perspective of a non-TERF feminist, me. Okay, so number one, transgender women are not real women. So this has two facets, the physical and the metaphysical facet. So the physical facet, I'm not going to spend much time on because it's pretty uncontroversial. Transgender women have no vagina and no boobs, so they are not real women. At least not naturally occurring anyway. First, this can easily be fixed through surgery if the transgender woman has the means, but also defining a woman by her reproductive parts is very reductive, which I believe is uncontroversial and gets us into our next point about the metaphysical experiences of womanhood. So metaphysical is basically just a fancy philosophy word for beyond the physical. It's basically the joint complex of consciousness and subconsciousness, if you want to think about it that way. That's not totally right, but for now, that's all you need to understand about what metaphysical means. So what's the argument about the metaphysical facet? So a transgender woman, according to a TERF feminist, simply did not grow up with the metaphysical struggles of womanhood and therefore is not a real biological woman. So what do I mean by this? So as women, when we grow up, we hear things like throw like a girl, run like a girl. We're excluded from boys' playground games. Sayings like, ladies, stop fighting, or is it that time of the month, are all too common when boys are growing up and you're kind of learning about female bodies. And hearing all these derogatory sayings with derogatory connotations aimed towards women simply makes you hate yourself, whether consciously or not, and makes you hate other women. And you begin to understand yourself as less than, which manifests itself into things like the fact that men are more likely to ask for higher wages than their equally qualified women counterparts because women don't see themselves as deserving. And this metaphysic, and overcoming this metaphysic, struggling with it throughout your whole life, is what can come to define womanhood. And I don't disagree with this point. I don't disagree that trans women do not experience this. They don't. But my point is that just because a trans woman does not experience the metaphysical plight of a biological woman does not make her a man. They are just the same, a trans woman. The saying trans women are women is not asserting that trans women are biological women, because they're not. Rather, it is a call to broaden the scope of womanhood to include the biological and metaphysical dispositions of trans women. And this should not threaten biological women, which gets into the next pillar of TERF feminist theory, that trans women are stealing attention and spots away from biological women. So for this, I'll use the case study of Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan is a trans woman who was a sponsor or spokesperson for Bud Light, and while there were just a lot of transphobic objections to this, a lot of them were TERF. And the reason a lot of them were TERF was because Dylan, in being a sponsor for Bud Light, she was stealing the spot from a real woman. This points to a larger issue in society, I believe, that as feminists we should all care about, and that this issue is that there are limited spots for successful women in society. Dylan Mulvaney being a successful woman should not threaten the success of biological women. And the fact that it does points to this issue, and I think we should address this issue rather than getting mad at Dylan. So for this, I'll use a backpack analogy. So say I want to go to class, and for class I need 5 textbooks for whatever reason, and I start to fill my backpack with these textbooks, but my backpack only fits 4 textbooks. I don't get mad at one of the textbooks for taking the place of the 5th, rather I get a bigger backpack. The issue is the backpack, the issue isn't the amount of textbooks I need. So instead of getting mad at successful women like Dylan for stealing the spots of a biological woman, let's get mad or point to society and ask, why do we have limited spots for successful women? And so, in conclusion, the point I'm trying to make in this video is that in asserting that trans women are not biological women on account of their metaphysic is missing the point of transgender activism, and TERF feminists are also missing the point of feminism in asserting that transgender women steal the spots from biological women, because it's not looking to the actual societal issue that is the limited spots for women. So if you're still a TERF feminist after this, just admit that you're transphobic and move on with it. So those are my thoughts.